It's only been a few months since FaZe Clan made its debut with their new signing, Jonathan EliGE Jablonowski at the Blast Bounty, and things are already looking a bit concerning. Throughout their matches, the team has shown both flashes of its former resilience and explosiveness, but seems to have found newfound flaws originating from this new compound of players. Unfortunately, they haven't shown much FaZe bullshit to pull them out of the fire either, as it seems like the magic has kind of worn off. They had been showing promise of progress and improvement throughout each event, taking bigger scalps each time, but now that seems to have stagnated to some extent. Also, this new compound of players doesn't have ROPS anymore, so there's nobody to really clutch out the game and make it easier for them in the long run. Despite the short lifespan of this roster, it looks like integrating the pillar of NA Counter-Strike, EliGE, might prove to be more difficult than any task Kerrigan has ever taken on before. Despite FaZe's loss of ROPS, there's no overstating how high the expectations are for these roster. EliGE was universally touted as one of the best riflers playing Counter-Strike last year. However, he really struggled to find any team success as he was playing on the best North American team, Complexity, but within the deep annals of Tier 1 competition, he couldn't find much success. FaZe Clan, on the other hand, was the only team that could have won both World Championships last year, but failed to win both of them in the final, as they stumbled in heart-wrenching fashion. They lacked consistency, but they showed brilliance at these crucial moments, particularly at the majors, when everybody took them for finished. The scary part for them is that there's no telling how much wind is left in their sails, as Kerrigan and Rain are getting up there in terms of age, and there's no telling if they'll be able to come back. They did lose their ever-consistent rock as well, the calm and collected ROPS. But the good news is that they may have gained an even more formidable rock in the eternally formidable EliGE. They lost ROPS, that's true, but they still must have their eyes on the furthest island in the horizon, the one that's reserved only for the greatest to ever play. FaZe partnership is supposed to be one based on championships and legacy, a final stride towards immortalizing themselves as the biggest winners in the history of the game, stepping beyond just their already great reputation and solidifying themselves as legends. EliGE began his career in Team Liquid in the early year of 2015. Back then, he was just another sardine in the can of North American Counter-Strike. Nothing in particular distinguished him. Over time, we've seen him evolve from being just another player in the barrel to a beast that keeps surpassing expectations. In 2019, he was ranked the 4th best player in the world, the highest for any North American player ever in the history of Counter-Strike for HLTV's list. EliGE across that whole year carried his team to victory after victory, never logging a single event below a rating of 1.0, with extremely high peaks in one of the most competitive eras of Counter-Strike. Over time, EliGE has received praise for his in-game prowess, but also criticisms for his attitude in and outside of the game. He's been called out as difficult to work with by some teammates and often shows frustration towards them in real-time live matches. He's also been spoken about as a sort of diva-esque presence, demanding to have the best positions all the time and constantly needing to please him for the good of the team. Even though he's really consistent as a player, his style naturally demands a lot, being the central, communicative, and aggressive piece of the team on each map. Normally, that is. EliGE goes for plays that are equally calculated and audacious right in the center of the map, which results in either spectacular moments when they work, and when they don't, at least his team understands what's going on the map better and can adapt, provided that EliGE communicates it efficiently. However, the flip side of the coin is that when he's not comfortable, his team is kind of stifled, because they don't have that same force of nature directing the flow of the game from the center of the map. So what in God's name does FaZe need to do in order to activate EliGE and actually make their full stride towards becoming legends, and not fumble to teams that are decidedly beneath their stature? FaZe Clan is a team that will go down in history for its excellence, and they did it with their own unique recipe. In 2022, lacking any superstar player on their team, or any dominance on any particular map, they still eclipsed every other team with players like Simple in the competition. They did this through the iconic triangular motor on their team, Twists, ROPS, and Brokey, a group of players from practically 3 different continents and completely different cultures, but they seem to work in tandem as a core until the very end of their tenure. Finn Kerrigan Anderson is known for taking these teams of different individuals and turning them into functioning teams, which is unheard of in Counter-Strike. He has even won tournaments of the highest prestige over the years, with players that joined his team for a single event. He was the first one to have a knack for integrating players of different nationalities quickly onto a team and making it function with little to no practice, something unheard of in the modern era of Counter-Strike, where being well drilled and consistent and calm and collected in moments where the bright lights and pressure are hitting players really takes a big toll. The most legendary win that Kerrigan had was in IEM Katowice 2022, when COVID-19 was at large and disqualified 2 different players from FaZe at different stages of the tournament. And they had to use an Australian player, JKS, at the last moment to replace both of them with little to no practice. You would say that them not coming in last already would be a good result for them. Not only did FaZe win the entire tournament with all the top teams there, they won 3 series in a row to win it without dropping a single map in the playoffs, the highest moment of pressure. And crucially, they did this by being the best team in disadvantaged scenarios, clawing back games and never seeming to throw in the towel. After this, JKS, the Australian player, he did become in the sights of several different teams because they thought, well, maybe it's just him, maybe he's just such a good player, and he was touted by the scene as underrated. But he rarely ever reached the level he did at FaZe again, only at particular moments of his career. So, long story short, if there's any man to integrate a single player, it's gonna be Kerrigan. He somehow has perfected this balancing act of giving incoming players what they want and allowing them to shine and win games for the team without sacrificing much for the rest of the team. So if there's any man who's gonna successfully integrate EliGE and understand him and integrate him into FaZe and create their own new unique recipe to success, it's gonna be Kerrigan out of anyone in Counter-Strike. Here are some reasons why I think Kerrigan may be struggling to integrate EliGE at this particular moment of time. The narrative around EliGE is that he behaves something like a dictator on his team, becoming the master just through his personality and presence. However, I don't think that's the case, even though his role in the game might be indicative of that, kind of like the case of Nikola Niko Kovac. I don't believe that EliGE is most comfortable when teams are set up around him and are completely calling around him from the beginning. Rather, I think that EliGE is a player that excels when he understands what his team is doing and crucially is able to call his own number in specific moments of the round, which he understands the flow of and the overview of. Yeah, of course he excels also when given resources and space, like any player would. And when players play around him, he can excel, especially like he did in complexity. But in a team like FaZe, which is supposed to be an already well-functioning machine, all that's required for him is to have an overview of the map, and is given the space and freedom to execute his own plays at his own behest. I believe that crucially, EliGE is an informational player, meaning that his main value besides kills is what he himself makes of the round before and after this play, more than the kills he gets. And crucially, his team needs to understand what they should do after EliGE's play, and it's going to be helpful for them because they'll have a better understanding of the flow of the map, because EliGE can be so disruptive and be like a director in the middle of a round. In contrast, what people typically say about EliGE in the community is that he is a player that needs to be given all the resources. He needs to have a perfect thing set up for him so he can fit in just nicely where he wants to be, very much like a diva. And that includes, of course, set plays, structure, and protocols. But actually, I think that EliGE brings all of that himself and just needs to be given trust and freedom to execute his plays. But of course, trust and freedom is not given just by saying it and pretending that we have it, but rather has to be built up over time. And not only that, EliGE has spent his entire career in the North American Counter-Strike space, which obviously everybody memes upon. Some of it is exaggeration, but some of it is real, where there's a lot of backstabbing that goes on behind the team, and he's rarely ever been on a team where it's just, this is a machine and this is what we have to do. It's clear to me that EliGE still isn't fully comfortable in the new environment, but I really think that Kerrigan understands this too. In most interviews, Kerrigan makes a point of saying that the team's trajectory is going to be more like a marathon than a sprint, and he knows it's going to take patience and a lot of practice for EliGE to be integrated. Even though he hasn't said that explicitly, because that obviously would have many repercussions. within the team and outside of the team, possibly. Fans of FaZe are going to have to exercise the same patience if they ever hope FaZe Clan to succeed with EliGE. Fans of Counter-Strike, myself included, are really quick to judge either way. We all see Vitality succeeding now, and we assume that ROPS must have had something to do with that and is a progenitor of all of that. And we see FaZe failing, and we assume, oh, it's just another EliGE drama fest. The truth is, if FaZe Clan can unlock EliGE, it will breed the most consistency they've had as a team. They won't need to have ROPS and Brokey and Twists just pull out a clutch out of their ass out of nowhere, passing by just by the skin of their teeth. The value of EliGE is that he's a star player that can take over in different moments of the game. Once activated, he can become their Swiss Army knife, winning clutches, entries, being the central piece of their team. Many see this FaZe project now, and they despair about what it could mean for EliGE's career and Kerrigan's career if it fails. I instead look at it, and I think about what it could become. With Kerrigan as the king and EliGE in his pocket, nothing could go wrong. After all paths lead to Rome, and there are about to be a few stumbles here and there in Romania, from Bucharest to Cluj. And if you like this video, I will give the pun Bucharest, and also check out my other content on YouTube and Substack, as well as the frag movie made by FinksFX called Phenomenal about EliGE. You won't regret it. Thank you for watching the video.